Auxiliary verbs. Definition, usage and examples. In this video, you will learn the definition of an auxiliary verb and how to use auxiliary verbs in sentences. Go through the examples and try out the practice exercises to have a better idea of the same. Let's start with definition of auxiliary verb. An auxiliary verb is a verb that is used as a helping verb along with the main verb in a sentence to make it more meaningful. It is used to alter the tense, mood or voice of the sentence. Here are some examples of auxiliary verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, have, has, had, will, would, may, might, can, could, shall, should, must, ought to, need, do, did. How to use auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs can be used to perform different functions in a sentence or a context. Auxiliary verbs act as helping verbs to alter the tense, voice and mood of a sentence. Let us look at how these verbs act to fulfill each of these characteristics. Auxiliary verbs used to alter the tense of the sentence. There are particularly a few auxiliary verbs that can be used to change the tense of the action being performed by the subject, noun or pronoun, in a context. All, to be, forms of verbs, all forms of have, and forms of will, are used to denote different tenses. Points to remember. When using the forms of to be, make sure you use the gerund, verb plus ing, form of the main verb as they are used to indicate continuous action. When using forms of have, see to it that you use the past participle forms of the main verbs along with the different forms of have. There is one other thing that you should keep in mind. When the auxiliary verbs, have, and been, are used together to represent the perfect continuous tense, see to it that you use the gerund, verb plus ing, form of the main verb in that particular sentence. When using the auxiliary verb, will, to denote the simple future tense, see to it that you use the root verb as such along with will, and a gerund, verb plus ing, along with will be, to indicate the future continuous tense. Make sure you employ the past participle form of the main verb when it is used to indicate the future perfect tense along with the auxiliary verbs, will, and have. Let us look at the following examples to learn how to use them in sentences effectively. Auxiliary verbs used to alter the voice of the verb. All forms of to be, have, and will can be used as auxiliary verbs to represent the voice of the verb in a sentence. Let us look at some examples of how these auxiliary verbs can be used. Auxiliary verbs used to express the mood. The verb forms of the auxiliary verb, do, are used to express the mood of a sentence. It is mostly used in imperative and interrogative sentences. Let us look at some examples. Do your children enjoy watching educational films? Did she complete the work that was assigned to her? Do not forget to bring the Bluetooth speaker when you come home tonight. Modal auxiliary verbs. Modal auxiliary verbs can be used as helping verbs along with other main verbs to emphasize on the possibility, ability, necessity or probability of some action taking place. Have a look at the examples given below to have a clear idea of how it works. Here we have provided you with an exercise. Pause the video and check your knowledge of auxiliary verbs and their usage. Check the answers given below to find out how far you have understood the topic. Thanks for watching. Like, share and comment. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.